Hey everyone, I'm Chris, your real estate problem solver. In this video, we're going to talk about the Middle Georgia February market reports, and we're going to get you an update on the National Association of Realtors lawsuit settlement update. So stay tuned and we'll talk about it in a second. Hey guys, I'm back. Chris, your real estate problem solver. I am so sorry that we were taking so long to get this report out, but we wanted to kind of hold off and wait and find out what was going on with the National Association of Realtors so we could add it to the market report. So let's get into it. So if you haven't been keeping up with it, or you haven't even known anything about it, the National Association of Realtors has been in the courts since 2019 with random lawsuits in different states over arguments about real estate commissions and agent commissions offered out to buyers agents, who's paying what, and so on and so forth. Well, it made it all the way up to the higher courts, and now that it's made front page news, quite a few people are watching it. Well, as of Friday, March 15, the courts did come out with a final settlement that they are anticipating is going to get filed and be the final word on the court case. So as it stands right now, the National Association of Realtors has agreed on a settlement of $418 million being paid over the next 4 years. That part has been settled, and the other points that are going to be changed in this lawsuit are as follows. The National Association of Realtors lawsuit, part of the lawsuit now stipulates that the NRA cannot establish any kind of rules for sellers to set compensation for buyer's agents. So what that means is currently the way agents do business is when they get the listing to sell your house, they put the house out on the market, and buyer's agents or buyers will have their agents make offers for them to buy your house. Now, if a buyer makes an offer that you accept and you go to closing, then the listing agent usually shares a portion of their sales commission with the buyer for bringing, or the buyer's agent for bringing that buyer to you. So once this settlement is filed and finalized, the National Association of Realtors will no longer be able to establish any kind of rules pertaining to whether or not a listing agent can offer any kind of compensation to a buyer's agent, or how much. Another part of this settlement also stipulates that any buyer's agents that are working with a buyer are going to be required to enter into a buyer's brokerage agreement. Now, again, in the traditional sense, like right now, this hasn't all come to fruition yet. They are forecasting this to be enforced somewhere around mid-July. Okay, they're still ironing out the final details. But now that selling agents are not required to put out any kind of a compensation towards the buyer's agent, then the buyer's agent is going to be responsible for getting compensation from their own clients, which, in order to make sure that they do get compensated, they're going to have to put it in writing. So buyer's agents are going to be required to have a buyer's brokerage agreement with their clients. And in addition to this, the National Association of Realtors has also been stipulated in the settlement that they can no longer require that an agent be a member of the local MLS. So that's going to be interesting how all this plays out, because while a lot of these stipulations release agents from a requirement to join certain associations or the multiple listing service, a lot of these practices are actually helpful and advantageous to the agents. So once this becomes enforced and normal practice, it's going to be interesting how this changes the market and changes how agents start doing business. And of course, I'm not the only resource out here. Do your research, go to Google, go to Bing, do some research, do some homework, and make some comments below if you've heard anything else pertaining to this issue, or if you have your opinion on what you think is going to happen once this becomes a part of normal practice, let us know what you think is going to happen. Do you think the market's going to change? Might it change how people price their houses? Will this change how buyers look at buying a house now that they may be required to pay for their own buyer's agent? So make a comment below and let us know what your opinions are. Okay, so to summarize the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, they are going to be paying out for damages. The agents are no longer going to be required to join an MLS, their local MLS. The selling agent, listing agent, is now no longer required, or there are going to be no enforced rules as to whether or not they offer any kind of a co-op in the commissions, which means that the buyers are now going to have to negotiate their own compensation package with their buyer client. In so doing so, that means they're going to be required to have a buyer's brokerage agreement signed by themselves and the buyer's client. Those are the updates so far, so let's get into the February market report for Middle Georgia. Alright, so the housing market for Middle Georgia is starting to show some signs of a little bit of correction. Now, as it stands right now, for the month of February, there was a strong increase in listings in the Middle Georgia area. Now, again, I keep my my resources limited to the Central Georgia MLS and the Georgia MLS for the Middle Georgia sections. And in this Middle Georgia area, we are showing a strong uptick in the number of listings that are available. Last month was around 800. This month we're showing about 1,700. Okay, so we've got a lot of houses on the market, and that doesn't necessarily mean in Warner Robins proper. That means all the way out into the country and the rural areas as well. So in the month of February, we've got about the same number of new listings coming on the market as we did in January, somewhere around 440 houses. But we also had an increase in houses sold in the month of February. We went from around 400 to a little almost 650 houses sold in the month of February. So this is going to be typical. We're getting into the springtime, and we'll probably have a increase in that the closer we get to kids getting out of school, which is when the market for selling houses usually kicks off the most. Now, the indicators that are interesting for this month is the price changes. Now, in January we only had about 200, but in February we've gone up to 1,500, which is telling us that there are a lot of people that have had their market or house on the market for too long, and they've decided to drop the price in order to entice a buyer. Now, keep in mind, price changes can mean anything from the price going up, price going down, to simply somebody putting in the wrong number and having to go back and correct it when they entered the listing into the multiple listing services. But with that kind of a jump in price changes, it's a pretty good indication that people are lowering their prices in order to get their houses sold. Now, another indication of that is the days on market. January we were around 44. In February we went up to 48. It's not a big increase, but it is an increase, and another indicator that houses are staying on the market longer than sellers like, and with the price changes shows they're willing to drop the prices in order to get the houses sold. Now, another indicator of that speculation, and that's what it is, everybody's crystal ball is cloudy, so all this is just a guess based on the numbers. But another indicator of this is the median price points. Now, for the last couple months, the median houses sold in the Warner Robins Middle Georgia area had been averaging about $280,000. Well, this month the average median priced house is dropping down to about $250,000, $260,000. So what that means is the majority of the houses being sold are cheaper than they have been. So with that and the number of price changes, there's a good chance that we are working into a possible correction. Now, another indicator to bring up is also the expired listings. Now, we haven't changed much in that. There's actually a few less expired listings in February than there were in January. But if it does change, then the expired listings will definitely be an indicator on whether or not this market is going into a correction, or we may be even rolling into a hard market. But only time will tell. So I'm Chris, your real estate problem solver. This is the February market and the National Association of Realtors settlement update. And of course, this has not quite been filed yet, so the settlement has not come to ironclad yet. And if these changes are filed and finally settled ironclad, then what they're proposing is these changes will start in mid-July. So keep an eye out for it, and I'll talk to you on the next video.